Daniel Ricciardo is one of the most likable and entertaining drivers in the Formula One paddock. However, his performances over the past few years have raised questions about his abilities and whether he deserves a spot on the current grid, especially with many young, talented drivers waiting for a chance to drive in F1. So, let's take a look at what's going on with Daniel Ricciardo, why he is struggling so much, and what the future might hold for him. For that, we'll have to go back to where it all started. In 2018, Daniel was driving for Red Bull and was considered their number one driver at that time. He was teammates with Max Verstappen, which may sound intimidating now given Max's recent dominance, but it was a different story back then. 2018 marked their third year as teammates. In 2016 and 2017, Daniel comfortably finished ahead of Max in the standings and was seen as the lead Red Bull on the field. However, things began to change in 2018. Max was getting stronger, becoming more comfortable with the car, and looking like he was going to give Daniel serious competition. You could just feel the shift in team dynamics. In August 2018, Daniel announced that he would leave Red Bull at the end of the year to drive for Renault in 2019. This decision surprised everyone. It would have made sense if he was going to Ferrari or Mercedes, but Renault, a team that finished 6th in 2017 and was the 4th or 5th best team in 2018, seemed like an odd choice. He was leaving a team that regularly fought for podiums and wins for a team that was nowhere near the top and hadn't scored a podium in years.
My assumption was that he was running a little bit from a fight.
I have to agree with Christian Horner when he said it because it definitely looked like it. Some people say it was for money, but I don't think there was a massive salary bump. While Renault might be a bigger brand, their F1 spending is relatively limited. Plus, Daniel was already one of the highest paid drivers at that time, so I don't think that was the reason. Others say the team environment at Red Bull was a bit toxic and they were favouring Max. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because if that were the case, he wouldn't have returned to Red Bull 4 years later. One reason that might have contributed to his decision to leave the team could be that he knew he was going to lose the lead driver title to Max soon, and wasn't ready for that. So he moved to Renault, where he thought he could be the lead driver with a slightly higher paycheck. Plus, Renault was the manufacturer that supplied engines to Red Bull, which won them 4 championships in the past. He did get beaten by Max that year in the standings, though that wasn't entirely performance-based, as he had 5 more DNFs that season than Max. I don't think that would have made much difference though, as Max simply looked like the quicker driver. Leaving Red Bull at that time turned out to be the biggest mistake of Daniel's career. He then left Renault after just 2 seasons, during which he finished 9th and 5th in the standings. He beat both his teammates Nico Hülkenberg and Esteban Ocon, but was essentially battling in the midfield. He then moved to McLaren in 2021, and I think this is where the downfall started. He was paired with the young Lando Norris, who humbled him for 2 consecutive years. Daniel never felt comfortable with the car and struggled badly. Seeing his gradual decline in performance, McLaren terminated his contract 1 year early. He was then signed by Red Bull as a 3rd driver for sim work and marketing duties in 2023. He did a testing session for Red Bull in Silverstone and impressed Christian Horner, who always had a soft spot for Daniel. Red Bull then decided to give him a chance to drive at AlphaTauri, replacing the struggling Nick de Vries. Unfortunately, that move hasn't worked out for Ricciardo either. Last year, in 7 races against Yuki, Daniel outperformed him in only 3 races. And so far in 2024, Daniel has finished ahead of Yuki in just 3 out of 10 races. Yuki has matured a lot in the last couple of years, both in terms of his pace and composure. It's not like Daniel lacks pace. Last year in Mexico, he qualified 4th on the grid and finished the race in 7th. This year in Miami, he qualified 4th in the sprint shootout and finished 4th in the sprint, and in Canada he qualified 5th and finished 8th in the race. But aside from these performances, he has been largely absent. 1 or 2 extraordinary performances in a whole season won't cut it. Meanwhile, Yuki has been consistently scoring points and frequently making Q3 appearances. Even Yuki, I think, should seek out other options, as spending more than 4 years in the Red Bull sister team is too long considering the team's history. The natural progression for Yuki would have been a promotion to the senior Red Bull team, but that doesn't seem possible as Red Bull appears happy with their current lineup. Though, the backing from Honda is keeping Yuki in the fold for now. Ricciardo has kind of developed a habit of getting beaten by his younger teammates. First Max, then Lando, and now Yuki. It's just sad to watch. Christian firmly believes in his resurgence. I've never seen Red Bull give this many chances to any of their other drivers. Nick was booted after just 10 races and had little to no experience with F1 cars. People say that sponsors and marketing also play a role in Daniel being in the seat at RB. But come on, since when did Red Bull start retaining drivers for their sponsors and marketing value? Red Bull has always been ruthless in its driver selection, expecting only performance. If drivers can't deliver, they're out. Now, some people in the comments might say, but they've retained Sergio Perez as well. Let me tell you something. Checo did a brilliant job in 2021 and 2022. He did way better than what Gasly and Albon managed at Red Bull. Yes, 2023 was tough for Perez. The car was a rocket ship in Verstappen's hands, but on the other side of the garage, they were struggling to even get into Q3 at times. However, in races, he showed great pace. Despite being far behind his teammate in points, he secured second place in the standings, giving Red Bull their first ever 1-2 finish in the championship. Now, Red Bull has again given Perez a 2-year contract, which might seem generous now as Checo hasn't finished the last 2 races. But you have to see that he had a strong start to the season, sorted out his qualifying pace, and was regularly on the podium. Plus, Daniel hasn't shown any signs of improvement, so their best option was Perez. About promoting Yuki, they still seem a bit hesitant. I don't know why Sainz wasn't considered by Red Bull. That was surprising. I personally would have loved to see Sainz at Red Bull. I guess the main reason was not changing the team dynamics, as it's been working brilliantly for them the last few years. But is there room for improvement? Yes, absolutely. I think Red Bull trusts Checo to improve his performances, and it's good in a way to see Red Bull being supportive of him, showing full belief in him as he's been an integral part of the team's success in recent years. The same can't be said about Daniel though. He was expected to lead the RB team given his extensive experience, but so far it's been quite the opposite. He struggles to match Yuki's pace on most circuits. Now, having Daniel in that seat is making it challenging for Liam Lawson to break into Formula One. Currently, he serves as the reserve driver for both Red Bull and RB. While he has shown he can quickly adapt to speed, he still needs the crucial experience of racing full time. If Max were to suddenly leave the team in a couple of years, Red Bull would lack a driver ready to step into his spot and compete for the championship. Yuki is beginning to show promise, but lacks experience in fighting at the front, while Daniel seems to have lost the racecraft he once possessed. It wouldn't be fair to assess Liam's potential just yet, which underscores the importance of Red Bull continuing to test young drivers in F1, as they have always done. Perhaps Liam could be the driver to earn a promotion to the second Red Bull seat. The only way to find out is by putting him in the car and giving him a real chance. Isaac Hadjar is another Red Bull junior who is performing really well in his second year of Formula 2. Currently second in the championship standings, he's expected to contend for the title this season. This will likely be his last year in F2, and it seems he might miss out on securing an F1 seat with Red Bull in the near future. Lawson and other juniors appear to be on hold for Daniel Ricciardo, despite Sergio Perez being signed for 2 more years. I don't understand what Red Bull hopes to achieve by keeping Ricciardo at RB. Now, coming to the final question, where does that leave Ricciardo, whose aim when joining AlphaTauri was to secure a seat at the senior Red Bull team? Well, the Red Bull seat is out of the question for at least a couple of years now. Look, the thing is, Daniel will be 35 this year. He's not young anymore. I'm not sure what his plan is, but surely driving at RB for another 2 years isn't part of it. That's essentially a rookie seat he's currently occupying. I would assume Daniel is aware of this. It's not just about him at this point. He's effectively blocking young Red Bull Academy drivers who deserve a chance to step up into Formula One. Now, I'm not against Daniel by any means, but if he's willing to drive a midfield car for 2 or more years, he should consider moving to a team like Haas, Williams, or Sauber. It seems illogical to bet on Checo doing poorly and then replacing him at Red Bull. Besides, who knows if Red Bull will still be the most dominant team in 2 years? Instead, why not start fresh with another team and work his way back up to the top? Liam Lawson has been waiting for 2 years, despite showing strong performances in the few races he participated in during 2023, and he's contractually bound to wait on Red Bull's decision for 2025 before considering other options, which I don't think is fair. So yeah, Red Bull needs to address this situation quickly. It's clearly not working out as they had expected. I can't wait indefinitely for Ricciardo to become consistently competitive. If they sign Ricciardo for another year, there is a very high chance that they'd lose Lawson, who seems like a more promising prospect in the long term. We're 9 races into this season, and it's been pretty clear who the consistently quicker driver is. The longer they delay, the more they'll miss out on new young talent, and that could have significant consequences in the future. And that's it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and hit the subscribe button because many of you forget about it. Also, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on the whole Daniel Ricciardo situation, and I'll see you guys in the next video.